if you could shortly explain what's colonization, what does it look like, so we can recognize that we are in colonization or we're being colonized, and how do we decolonize? Because looking at other nations, when they go through the process too fast, or they're not preparing themselves, or you could get economic collapse, or a collapse of
anything,
law,
because they're administrating everything.
Yeah. So it's like you need the rug, but if you snatch it from under you before you make something to replace it, then
exactly. And this is why Drew Ali said he's not going to wake all of us up, because then we might destroy something.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, there has to be, the way I see it is, there has to be certain fortified individuals, you know, who have the information to establish something necessary to sustain civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is also, I wanted to read this from Circle 7, because this ties into it and is great. I always thought that this was a great chapter. It's a phenomenal chapter. Let's see, let's go to the back and see what it is. So this is chapter 29, Magistrate and Subject. O thou the favorite of heaven, whom the sons of men, thy equals, have agreed to raise to sovereign power, and set as a ruler over themselves, consider the ends of the importance of their trust, far more than the dignity and height of thy station. Thou art clothed in purple, and seated on a throne. The crown of majesty invested thy temples. The scepter of your power is placed in thy hand. But not for thyself were these ensigns given, not meant for thine own, but the good of thy kingdom. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. Let me say that again. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. Now, didn't Drew Ali say, I'm happy when my Moors are happy?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he a prophet?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he sitting on the throne when he was here?
Mm-hmm.
The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. Don't these elected officials talking about how great they are, but the situation of our people that our people in there is terrible?
Yep.
The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. His power and dominion rest on the hearts of his subjects. His power and dominion rest on the hearts of his subject. Where does he get his power from?
The people.
The mind of a great prince is exalted with the grandeur of his situation. He involveth high things, and searcheth for business worthy of his power. He calleth together the wise men of his kingdom. He consulteth among them with freedom, and he heareth the opinions of them all. He looketh among his people with concernment. He discovers the abilities of men and employeth them according to their merits. So whatever people are good at, he says, you're good at taking out the trash.
Mm-hmm.
Take out the trash. You're good at spelling. Teach people how to spell.
Mm-hmm.
You're good at farming. You should be a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Go farm this night. His magistrates are just. His ministers are wise. And the favorite of his bosom deceiveth him not. He smileth on the arts, and they flourish. The science improved beneath the culture of his hand. With the learned and ingenious he delighteth himself. He kindleth in their breast Emmanuel, I have a small tongue. Emulation, and the glory of his kingdom is exalted by their labors. The spirit of the merchant who extendeth his commerce, the skill of the farmer who enricheth his lands, the ingenuity of the artists, the improvements of the scholar, all these he honoreth with his favor, or rewardeth with his bounty. He planteth new colonies, and buildeth strong ships. He openeth rivers for conveyance. He formeth harbors for safety. His people abound in riches, and the strength of his kingdom increaseth. He frameth his statutes with equity and wisdom. His subjects enjoy the fruits of their labor and security, and their happiness consists of the observance of the law. He foundeth his judgment on the principle of mercy, but in the punishment of offenders he is strict and impartial. And didn't Raleigh say, if I'm going to save this nation, I have to enforce the law?
Mm-hmm.
His ears are open to the complaints of his subjects. He restraineth the hands of their oppressors, and he delivereth them from tyranny. I'll say that again. His ears are open to the complaints of his subjects. He restraineth the hands of their oppressors, and he delivereth them from their tyranny. So whenever people try to encroach on our people's rights, it's up to whoever the leader is to say, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's very simple. His people therefore look up to him as a father with reverence and love. They consider him as the guardian of all they enjoy. Their affection unto him begetteth in his breast a love of the public. The security of their happiness is the object of his care. No murmurs against him arise in their hearts. I'm not sure what that is. His subjects are faithful and firm in his cause. They stand in his defense as a wall of brass. The army of a tyrant fleeth before them, as chaff before the wind. Security and peace bless the dwellings of his people, and glory and strength encircles his throne forever. So, in order to fix this decolonization situation, the people have to be informed of, first they have to know that they're colonized. Because first of all, people think, so the colonization is, we allowed the 13 colonies to be here. Now there's 50 states. That's colonization. We said you can be on the northeast coast of Morocco. Now we see Europeans in California, what they're calling California. That wasn't the agreement.
Yeah.
That's colonization. If you look up around 1800s, they even talk about mass amounts of people got shipped over here from Europe. That's colonization.
Yep.
The problem is, 1902, Frederick T. Gates, John D. Rockefeller, with their schools, they started to teach people that, Europeans are Americans too. They're not Americans. 1870, that's when they started calling themselves white. They're not white people. Our people need to be taught that these schools aren't interested in educating anyone. That's what a colonist does. You get what I'm saying? I feel like there's no real way. Just look at the situation that black people are in. They're suffering colonization. What we keep calling racism, it's colonization of their land. But they don't know that they're heirs to this land. But again, so colonization is you superimpose yourself on a people. You take some of their leaders to work for you to keep them dumb.
Yep.
Martin Luther King, what did he say? We're exiles in our own homeland. What does that mean?
That
we're not from somewhere else. Martin Luther King said that.
This land. Yeah.
Martin Luther King said that. 33-degree Mason. And he said he's been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land, right? He said he's been to the mountaintop and he's seen the promised land. Now, that's called Muhammad's Mountain. It's the great seal insignia of the Moorish nation or the Moorish Empire. Great Seal Pyramid. And under it says the Great Seal. See that? This is a representation of the Moors doing business with the Europeans. The Moors doing business with the Europeans as one. Now do you see the letter from George Washington to the Sultan of Morocco?
Mhm.
See that? And then the treaty to be observed. George Washington representing the Europeans, thanking our sultans for allowing the Europeans to do business on this land,
Mhm.
operating as one. And then out of many equals one, e pluribus unum, right? And then, right? And then you'll hear the so-called Indians saying, oh, we taught them everything, we taught them too much, and then they started controlling our government.
Mhm.
You can't teach someone too much, right? So so this is all part of colonization, because we taught them everything,
Mhm.
right? And then some people will call them, Elijah Muhammad said, what is a Mason? And the answer is, a Mason is a Muslim son. Now, we're the Muslims, but you got to understand that a Muslim is an acronym. A Muslim is muscles, organs, skeleton, limbs, electrical system, and magnesium. Magnesium is in the brain. A Muslim is a human being. Since we're the original people, we had all the knowledge.
Mhm.
And again, when I did the Moors Dominions book, it talks about how the Europeans sat at our feet. So we taught them, right?
Mhm.
So they're our sons because we taught them.
Mhm.
Right? And then this is just the study of mother and son.
Mhm.
Because you're the mother, I'm the son, we're the only two divine beings on this planet that exist.
Mhm.
So study us, study our nature, and then you see how we work.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So this is also where you get Edomite from. So this is part of colonization.
Mhm.
Because part of colonization is not knowing that you taught them. And thinking they got some type of superior claim anywhere when they don't, right?
Mhm.
So, right? So an Edomite is a child of a hermit. A hermit is someone who's secluded.
Mhm.
So if you read the Bible, for example, you'll see like Moses and Yeshua, like they would always, and all the other disciples, they would always be alone when they got the word from so-called God.
Yeah.
That's being a hermit. A hermit is someone who's alone.
Mhm.
Because when you're alone, you get to listen to yourself clearer. And that's where Allah is. You see what I'm saying? So we was teaching these principles that the first principle is mind. You gotta be alone. You can't be speaking to me and then I hear what's going on in here because you're talking. Shut up. Hermit. See what I'm saying? So we need to understand that colonization colonization consists of removing you from your history.
Mhm.
This is why black people don't have an identity. That's colonization.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So, knowing just this simple breakdown, you don't know that. That's colonization. Just because this removes you from your history.
Yeah.
Because if you, what? Okay. So since they're the child of the hermit, who's the original hermits?
Mhm.
And then you dig deeper, and then you'll run into this. And then if you go to Drew Ali's literature, like I did in the Moors Dominions book, I connected this with this.
Mhm.
Drew Ali already made the connection. Here's more proof.
Mhm.
Just build on what he did.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So hiding you from this and saying, oh, this is the Illuminati. and saying, oh, they're the Illuminati and this is scary stuff, and oh, this belongs to them and not you, and that's devil worship with the eye on it, that's devil worship, when that's our ancient stuff. This represents the activation of the pineal gland. This is the strongest structure on the planet. That's part of colonization. This is evil. And hiding you from this. Decolonization is saying, this ain't evil. Illuminati means illuminated, and it comes from you. That's decolonization. On the ethereal plane. Because it starts where?
In your mind.
So decolonization must start in your mind. You must know that you're not Negro, black, colored, you're a Moor. You must know that this is not New England. This country is called Morocco. Right? And then here's ancient mystic Oriental Masonry. Let's see what the Masons have to say about their own stuff. Even though it's not theirs, most people think, oh, Masonry belongs to Europeans. It's not theirs. Let's see what they have to say. This is exactly part of decolonization. So keep this in mind. The cradle of the symbolism used in all Masonry is placed by many of the best authorities in that country which they believe was first inhabited, i.e. the plateau of Tartary, and from there transmitted to this generation by the sages of India, Persia, Ethiopia, and Egypt. We are not indebted to either ancient Egypt for their religion or Masonry, but to America. Didn't Martin Luther King say, I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land? I might not get there with you, but we as a people will make it to the promised land. And then he said, we're in exile on our own homeland. And then our people think we're from Egypt over there, somewhere else. It is a fact that at Memphis, Egypt, in the pyramids, under the guidance of the kings, the mystic rites of Masonry were worked many thousands of years ago. But at that time, Egypt and the continent of America were one and the same. Masons are saying this. No matter how numerous or complicated the works of a lock may be, if but the right key be applied, the Great Pyramid proves to be the long-sought key to the mysteries at once of mythology and of the great world religions. Didn't Martin Luther King say, I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land? Isn't there a pyramid on the Great Seal, on the note? Talking about the Great Seal Pyramid? Isn't that? Was that what he was talking about? If you turn this over, isn't that a 7? Don't you see the shadow makes a 7? Isn't it in a circle? Well, it's an enclosed circle. This isn't really a circle, but it represents the circle 7. And this represents the seasons. Anyway, this is our ancient stuff. See that? Why are you doing it with your glasses off? Put your glasses on so you can see. And she's like this, trying to focus. Like, put your glasses on.
Because the screen's so little.
You good?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. No, it's because the symbol on the dollar is so little that it's hard for the camera to focus.
All right. America, known to the mystic as Atlantis, when this ruined Bethel was the seat of the greatest empire that has ever existed, America was what? The seat of the greatest empire that has ever existed. Didn't Noble Drew say the dominions of the Moorish Empire was what we call Egypt today in Africa? What we call Africa today? All of West Africa, including North, South, and Central America? That sounds like an empire, doesn't it? Isn't an empire inclusive of different countries, kingdoms, etc.? And
then the media will have you believe it was the Great Alexander.
Yeah.
And then this movie about it.
Again, this reaffirms George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, the Sultan of the Moroccan Empire, December the 1st, 1789. And he says, which he talks about our empire and them, talking about the United States, Europeans. He says he used the word empire, right?
Yeah.
Irresistible armies were terrorizing all of Europe and Asia. Talking about we were everywhere doing a bunch of crap. Right? Prehistoric America was the original Egypt. Prehistoric America was the original Egypt, or Eagle Land, prior to the mighty dispensation in the days of the plague, where the earth was divided and the great globe itself was nearly rent asunder. Didn't Noble Drew talk about before the great earthquake that turned the Atlantic into an ocean? Oh, sounds like these European Masons are backing what Drew said. First born among continents, America has been falsely denominated the New World. So again, the first among continents, America, has been falsely denominated the New World. This ain't new. This already existed. It's just these Europeans had to make a false story to put into our people's minds that they found this. Some say that America was peopled by the Carthaginians. Hold on, didn't I talk about the Carthaginians in my Moors Dominion book? Weren't they dark-skinned people? Well, first of all, Carthage is a city, so it's not a name of a people. They were Moors. So if America is inhabited by Carthaginians, who possess the Cape Verde Islands, that means Cape Verdeans are Moors too, and Carthaginians are Moors. If they inhabited America, that means they're Moors. That means America must rightfully belong to the Moors, huh? That backs up George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, doesn't it? Wouldn't having this knowledge give the people power? So that whenever some European says anything to them, they have a rebuttal? That's decolonization. Because then we would know, oh, we don't need to register any businesses with these Europeans because this is our land. We don't need to pay taxes to any European because this is our land. That's decolonization. Or people would realize, because there's a lot of people that come to me and they say, I want to cut hair, but they think they need a license from some European school to cut hair.
Yeah.
A license is permission. You don't need permission from any foreigner to do business on your own land.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
decolonization.
They need permission from you.
Exactly. Now, what did Drew say? He said, this is what our prophet said. He said, this is part of decolonization. He said, in his divine warning by the prophet for the nations, he said, money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power. Doesn't that remind you of the king's happy when his people are happy? Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver, and commerce, the ability to trade, belong to the people, to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. So again, your business is an extension of you. If you don't have a nationality, guess who gets to control that? Whoever your master is. If you're a free national person, you control your own stuff. So the reason why it says money and commerce is because this isn't money. And they're controlling the commerce by controlling this. Because commerce is business and trade, right? So this is moving around. So since metals are conductors, that would be the currency. You see what I'm saying? So since they control this, they control, all right, this normally costs one of these, but since, we control this, we're going to say one of these costs 5 of these. So you got to work extra hard to get this.
Yeah.
You got to work extra hard to get these to get this. That's how it works. But this isn't running. Money belongs to the people. Right? And then to combat Noble Drew Ali, to create this, and then again, they took the gold out to put this in circulation, to control our commerce. You see why Noble Drew Ali said money and commerce belong to the citizens alone? This is a private bank. This is how you decolonize. You stop giving them your energy. This is a representative of your energy. So if you want to cut hair, cut hair, be a barber, right? They try to say you need a license. One of the rules Drelly told us, don't call the Europeans on your brother. So if you're getting a haircut from someone who don't have a license, and you know they know how to cut hair, don't go to them. And if they give you a messed up haircut, don't call the cops on them. Handle it like a man. Say, hey people, don't go to this guy, he sucks at cutting hair. You don't need to call them cops. That's decolonization. Because then they become useless. Oh, we're not getting calls anymore. That means they're out of a job. That means their energy is not needed. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stop going to their so-called courts. They're not courts.
Yeah.
Therefore, all of them are out of a job. That's decolonization. But we need to have those set up to replace them. Well, I mean, we don't need to. If we were dealing with our own affairs, then
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't like doing business with you, all right, whatever. And then we have like counselors like, hey, everything that Europeans have is based off of what we set up.
Yeah. And you have to be just too.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Drelly said, once you get into power, don't treat them
That's like
unfairly.
somebody hit my bumper, little fender bender. It was parked, and I didn't call the police.
Yeah.
We exchanged information,
Yep.
and there was very little damage. It was like $200 for a new bumper, and they replaced the bumper. That's it.
Did you need a policy enforcer for that?
No.
Did you need a so-called judge
No.
for that?
So it's like on both ends. If you do something wrong, you're supposed to be living just and lawfully.
Oh, didn't Drelly say we live by love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice? Did he say that?
So that means even if you're the guilty party,
Pay for it.
Yeah, let's come to a middle ground. Let's come to terms.
Yep. And again, even that, right? Because most people think that they need insurance. We talked about this. People don't need insurance, right? The money that you're giving to these corporations, put it aside. So if anything happens, you can just go to that and go to yourself directly.
And you won't be
cut the
stressed out
middleman
about all these things.
Oh, I gotta pay this bill. That no, you don't. They're not bills. That's them making money off your estate. Your estate is you not knowing. That's the true foundation of the Moors Temple of America. That's or the movement itself. That's the foundation. You have a knowledge.
Yeah.
That's decolonization. The problem is the sellout or sellouts.
Yeah.
That's continuing to happen. That's keeping us stagnant when we should have been free 105 years ago. But these sellouts, I don't know what they want. They like being sellouts. I don't know. Decolonization. You see what I'm saying? Colonization is this. The name of your land is this. Colonization is this. Getting rid of that name and calling it this. That's colonization. Colonization is we have the right to keep and bear arms. Right? That's our right. Colonization is charging our people for having weapons. That's colonization.
Charging us for bearing arms.
Yes, but they're not calling it that. They're saying
we categorize this as a weapon.
Yes, and a weapon is something destructive used for combat, etc., used in just killing people. That's colonization. Colonization is you have a plant on you, you're going to jail. And then saying, do you understand what's going on? And then you saying, being ignorant, saying, yeah. And then you going to jail by agreement.
Yeah.
Because they miseducated you. That's colonization. Colonization is people thinking that they need a license to cut hair and do hair, which is our culture, on their own land. That's colonization. Colonization is our people who know this information, talking about we're Indian and we're black. That's colonization. So you know, like in Blade, when Blade's fighting the familiars, the people who aren't vampires but they work with the vampires, that's what that is. That's a sellout.
Yeah.
They're familiars. They're familiar with some of the privy council, the knowledge,
Yep.
but they're still robbing their own people. Being taught what's going on, right? There's a game of chess being played. You're not going to go to the game and start playing chess if you don't know how to play. Decolonization is teaching you how to play. Teaching you that in order for a contract to be valid, it has to be made by consent, by a group party to it. It can't request anything illegal or unlawful. It has to be substance for substance.
Mm-hmm.
It can't, if it's a linear contract, if it's just your name on a contract, then it's clearly that's not an agreement between two people. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right. The colonization is democracy. What does the Constitution say? It doesn't even mention democracy once. The Constitution, the American Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, which all military members, Marines, that's you. I was in the Marines, so I gotta call them out. All military members take an oath to this. Article 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government. And shall protect each of them against invasion. And, on application of the legislature or of the executive, against domestic violence. Now, isn't the police pulling our people over and stealing their stuff, isn't that domestic violence?
Mm-hmm.
Don't military members take an oath to the Constitution to support and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic?
Mm-hmm.
Don't, if you look up state of Connecticut police, doesn't it say that they're de facto?
Yeah.
And if you look up the definition of de facto, doesn't it say not recognized by law?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't they be domestic terrorists?
Yeah.
Didn't the Pope just say, I'm relying on all military members for your support?
Yeah.
You see?
Mm. And what does the U.S. do in response to that? Ships everybody else out
To kill other people.
to deal with other nations that we don't even have a hand in.
So
It's none of our
decolonization
business.
to me would be getting farmland. The main thing is food.
Mm-hmm.
We need food. That would be decolonization.
Yep.
Getting food for your family. That would be my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly we need farmland because we've been going to their stores for food.
Yeah.
And your backyard garden can only produce so much, and we
Yeah.
got big families.
Food and shelter.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, colonization is hiding you from this, not telling you that during 1933 they took all your money,
Mm-hmm.
not telling you that a Mason isn't some elite people. They're just hiding information from you
Mm-hmm.
and then making it seem scary so you don't learn it, and not teaching you that they're a student of you, your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
That's colonization. Destroying people's history. And then rewriting it for them, but in your benefit, talking about, oh yeah, your people are black and y'all was just shipped from somewhere else. But clearly they know that this is Egypt. This is ancient Africa. Our empire controlled this. They know that.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. Any other questions?
Oh, that was my question.
But, yeah, so businesses, I mean, the General Civil Orders clearly states that they're not government. So why do you think you gotta register any of your personal information, business, whatever, with them? If you wanna cut hair, cut it. If you wanna have a babysitting business, where you babysit people, do contracts with their family, like you agree to have your baby babysat by me.
Mm-hmm.
You waive your right to sue me. And then if they agree to it,
Mm-hmm.
contract, then that's what they agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
And you can watch their children
Mhm.
and get compensated for it. It's not complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, oh, well, the state regulations say you need this. No, this is your land.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they say, General Civil Order, that that's private stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So again, if your so-called leaders aren't telling you this, clearly they're not in it for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no gray area. There is no, they didn't know. Because if you don't know, then maybe you shouldn't be in that position.
Yeah.
And or acting like it. At least we know what we know, and we can prove what we know.
Mm-hmm.
With other books, not just us saying it. Decolonization is telling our people that this is their land. They're not from somewhere else. That's decolonization. And then giving them the know-how to run their own businesses and not be encroached upon by some European saying, oh, I'm the IRS and you haven't paid this property tax, so you got to get off your own land. Rights of indigenous people says you can't kick no indigenous person off their own land. But you got to be in your own proper person. You can't think you're black, Negro, and colored. Because this ain't black, Negro, colored land. This is Morocco. So if you're a Moor, that means you're Moroccan. That means this is your land. That means no foreigner can tell you what to do on your land. So again, they're not government. They don't have a right to talk to you. They only talk to us because they have a physical presence here. And our people think that they're someone else. That's colonization. What else? Any other questions?
No, that was that was it. How do we decolonize?
Like, someone messaged me on YouTube and said, how do I help? Help by taking care of your family.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Do whatever you think is necessary to help your family. Do that. Didn't Noble Drew said Moors are upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not unknown or uncertain? Doesn't he talk about teaching your children and getting your house in order? So you start home. Fix your house. Because a lot of people's homes are messed up because of Willie Lynch and the situation that these Europeans are putting us in, that these so-called black leaders keep perpetuating for them.
That's the best thing every household could do, is make sure that they're self-sufficient, so that if we did get when we get ourselves together, we don't have to worry about everybody starving.
Yeah. Learn how to, what's it called? Preserve food, which I'm trying to do. Actually, I just bought I bought like some copper tubing, a copper pot, and like a big 5-gallon thing, so I can distill water.
Nice.
Drew at least told us to boil our water, but then I was looking like there's some stuff in water that you can't boil out.
Yeah.
That they're putting in.
Yeah.
So if you distill it,
for that reason.
So if you so distilling is like you get
It's basically steam.
a pot of dirty water, right?
Yeah.
This is dirt. This would be the water. So you just boil it. This would be fire.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Fire. This is water. And then, fire, it makes the steam. And then this is covered, so you got a lid on this. And then what I plan on doing is drilling a hole and getting the copper tube so the steam goes in there. And then putting it in a copper bin, putting that in there, covering it up so the steam will come out, and then the steam will go in here and then it'll become water. And that's purified water. So this would be tap water. And this would be the purified, distilled water.
That's, I haven't done too much research, but that's how they get this.
That's what they say, but even the
Yeah,
plastic
that's what they
container,
say.
the plastic container is not good. So, and then water, water, like, as we're talking, you can see the water vibrating, and I'm over here.
Yeah.
So it picks up vibrations, you know what I'm saying? So you can contaminate it with vibrations.
Yeah.
So, But I just bought some stuff on Amazon to do this.
It's awesome. You should document that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so this is additive to the General Civil Orders. This is from United States Congress, the Congressional Record, March 17th, 1933, Volume 33, page H, TAC 1303. Speaker, Representative James Trafalgar Jr. of Ohio, addressing the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees, remember they're a corporation, presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in the world, the U.S. government. We're setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89, Tax 719, declared by President Roosevelt, being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session June 5, 1933, joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental offices, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. So, Federal Reserve Act of 1933 suspended the gold clause, which is Article 1, Section 8, and Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. All debts, in contrast, all debts can only be paid in gold and silver, and Congress has the power to only make coined money. Mm-hmm. So gold and silver. So that paper isn't money. And again, we can go to the law book. Right? Let's see what the definition of money is. Remember, the General Civil Order is talking about semantic deceits. Right? This is page 1157. Money. In usual and ordinary acceptation, it means gold, silver, or paper money used as circulating medium of exchange. So paper money backed by gold and silver as an exchange, right? Mm-hmm. It does not embrace notes. What does this say on top of this? What does that say? Federal Reserve Note, right? That's what that says? Right?
Yep.
Federal Reserve Note. What did it just say? Does not embrace notes, bonds, evidence of debt, or other personal or real estate. So money is only gold and silver, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll read it again. Money. In usual and ordinary acceptation, it means gold, silver, or paper money used as circulating medium of exchange, and does not embrace notes, bonds, evidences of debt, or other personal or real estate. So they're admitting that this isn't money because it says Federal Reserve Note right on it. Mm-hmm. And then again, American Constitutional Interpretation, page what? Page 11. Page 11, read it again. Nowhere in the document, talking about the Constitution, for instance, is there specific authorization for Congress to found anything like the Federal Reserve System. In a strict technical sense, money means coined metal, usually gold or silver. See how they lost all sovereign authority? Mm-hmm. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only under emergency war powers. They declare war against us. With the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist communist order under a new governor for America. Now, we'd have to go to this, right? Let's go to what the difference of a democracy and a republic is. So here's this is from the U.S. Training Manual number 2000 TAC 25, published by the War Department, Washington D.C. on November 30th, 1928. So before Dry Lead passed. Mm-hmm. 1928, Dry Lead was on the scene and they exposed, oh yeah, we're a fraud. Dry Lead was the competent heirs, showing people was what. He said, I took the cover of all secret societies. And he said, I'm going to force the European to tell the truth. So here's the difference between a democracy and a republic. Democracy, 18 to 120. A government of the masses. A government of the masses. A government of the masses. Authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression results in mobocracy. As defined by Merriam-Webster's 11th edition, a mob is a disorderly crowd, especially one bent on destructive action a criminal set. Mobocracy is the mob as a ruling class. Now, didn't they talk about their oligarchy in the general civil orders? Attitude towards property is communistic, negating property rights. The Constitution says you have the right to fair and just compensation if your property gets taken. Negating property rights is a democracy. Attitude towards law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it be based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse, without restraint or regard to consequences. Results in demagogism, licenses, agitation, discontent, and anarchy. And here's my note, as defined by Merriam-Webster's dictionary. A demagogue is a leader who makes use of popular prejudices and false claims and promises in order to gain power. Now, wasn't we talking about the wall and Trump and all that kind of stuff? Wasn't he using hate and prejudice and people divided to gain power? And here's a republic. Authority is derived through the election by the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Already, the first sentence is already different. The first sentence in democracy was a government of the masses. Republic is authority is derived through the election by the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Attitude toward property is respect for laws and individual rights and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude towards law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence, with a strict regard to consequence. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought in within its compass. Avoids the dangerous extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. Now, didn't it just say democracy is a mobocracy? So that means a republic is the exact opposite of that. Doesn't the Constitution say within state is guaranteed a republic? Okay. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. It is the standard form of government throughout the world. So again, they overthrew that. Gold and silver were such a powerful money during the founding of the United States of America that the founding fathers declared that only gold or silver coin may be money in America. That's Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, the American Constitution. Since gold and silver coinage were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks and had a claim check, that's the paper money, was issued as money substitute. So this doesn't represent gold or silver, but they would have gold or silver certificates which would be passed around, which represents the amount of gold that they had in the bank. That's the currency. So the gold could stay stationary, but they would be able to withdraw that gold based on the certificates. You can't withdraw gold from this.
And each certificate would need to be signed.
Yeah. Since gold and silver coins were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks, and a claim check was issued as a money substitute. People traded their coupons as money or currency. Currency is not money, but a money substitute. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver money. So this isn't a promise of anything, right? Currency is not money, but a money substitute. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver. Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, make no such promises and are not money. A Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government, not money. The federal United States government and the U.S. Congress were not and have never been authorized by the Constitution for the United States of America to issue currency of any kind, but only lawful money, gold or silver coin. Now do you see why it says in the document Congress was never granted the power to create anything like the Federal Reserve System? It is essential that we comprehend the distinction between real money and paper money substitute. One cannot get rich by accumulating money substitutes. One can only get deeper into debt. Didn't Dorelli say money doesn't make the man? It is free national standards and principles that make the man in the nation. Why are people keep chasing this? And they literally, I seen a post on Facebook. Someone said today, "Oh, chasing that paper." So they recognize it's not real money.
Yeah.
Chasing that paper. What are you chasing it for? Someone else controls it. Therefore, they control you.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dorelli prophesies people will see a 20 note on the floor, step right over it, because this is not money. Their private corporation controls this. Therefore, they control you. It doesn't get any simpler than that. It's not complicated. Is it complicated to understand?
No. Not at all. We know this.
No excuses. We the people no longer have any money. Most Americans have not been paid any money for a very long time. Perhaps not in their entire life. Have you ever had gold and silver?
Paid to me?
Yeah.
No. I own gold and silver.
Now, do you comprehend why you feel broke? Now do you understand why you are bankrupt along with the rest of the country? Now he was talking to them. Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on a closed account. Federal Reserve notes are an inflatable paper system designed to create debt through inflation, devaluation of currency. Whenever there is an increase of the supply of money substitute in the economy without a corresponding increase in gold and silver backing, inflation occurs. So they say the cost of expo markers goes up. So you got to work hard to get this. And they control this. This doesn't belong to the people. This is private commercial paper. Federal Reserve notes. Federal Reserve is a private bank.
It's harder to do with gold and silver.
Yeah, because that's real metal.
When everything inflates, the price of that inflates.
Yeah.
So you're not working any harder.
Exactly.
It's just what you already have is worth more now.
Exactly.
Yep.
Why can't our people get that?
Most of our people, like, I have bullion, that .999
Yeah.
gold and silver. Most people don't have that. That's like the conversation we were having at that store with the clerk.
Oh yeah, because we were looking for copper. Because like for the camera, they have like they sell the Buddha statues and all that kind of stuff, and like the Namaste stuff. Like they sell all culture back to us.
Yeah,
we were asking for copper because I've been looking for copper for a long time. And she was talking, and we were talking about how copper, like they have like certain crystals there.
Yeah.
Like copper's real metal, it's a real conductor. They're not gonna have it here.
Yeah, because it's so valuable.
Yeah, what was she saying?
She's trying to say it doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, that's why people don't want you to carry too many pennies, because the actual copper in the penny is worth more than the 1 cent that they say it is.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't get that concept through her head.
Yeah.
She's
And we're in the middle of the store in the mall having this conversation.
Yeah.
And she works at that store.
Yeah, and she was like, no. She didn't understand that
that real metal is
more valuable
than paper.
Yeah. And I'm
metal
trying,
weighs more than paper.
I'm trying to explain to her, this is where the value off of everything is based off of the whole stock market is valued off of these metals. Yeah.
That's why in Europe it's called the pound.
Yep, and she's telling me no. And I was like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, all right. And that's partly, like, we can't even have regular conversations with people who don't know, It's difficult. All right. And that's also in the Tower of Babel, separate the people's language. We think money is paper. No, money is only metal.
Yeah, she was so convinced. I'm like, you never heard of Nixon, gold standard?
Yeah.
Nothing.
And even with JFK, he was trying to bring back the gold standard, so they killed him.
Yep.
Okay. Inflation is an invisible form of taxation. Inflation is an invisible form of taxation that irresponsible governments inflict on their citizens. The Federal Reserve Bank, who controls the supply and movement of FRNs, has everybody fooled. They have access to an unlimited supply of FRNs, paying only for the printing cost of what they need. FRNs are nothing more than a promissory note for U.S. Treasury securities, T-bills, a promise to pay the debt of the Federal Reserve Bank. That promise is our labor and our belief that this is real, and our belief that contracts that we make with them is real. Our labor backs this. Nothing else. Our belief in this backs this. Our belief is representative as our labor backing this. The stock market is us. We're the stock.
Yeah.
They're a private bank. They control it. They only have to pay for what it costs to make this. So why are we chasing this? Dummy. You'll never have more than the person who creates it.
Wait, and hold up. What are they paying
Yeah.
to make more of that? It's actually just the people putting in the labor
Yeah.
to make more of it.
Yeah.
That's like we were having this conversation a while ago about inflation and what happens if they print more. So you print a bunch more because people need more, and then they say, oh well, there's inflation. Well, what's inflation? Oh, everything costs more.
Yeah.
Who decided it costs more?
The private bankers who control this so that they can suppress the
Yeah, it's
people
like,
more.
oh, well, now houses cost more because we printed more dollars. Why?
Yeah.
Who decided that houses
Them.
cost more?
They're private board of directors.
Yeah. So you realize, oh wait a minute, people have more money that I can take from them. Let me raise the price of this. It's like, okay, if the bank just stayed put with the houses, the real estate, if whoever, McDonald's, Walmart, or whatever, left their prices where they are instead of being greedy.
Yeah, but you're
It's
dealing
like the
with
people have more money, I gotta snatch more of it
you're
up.
dealing with a fiat system in honor. Because you can have fiat and have it honorable,
Yeah.
but they're not honorable. You're talking about a legitimate fiat system in honor. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which would be like the cradle to rocking this United States corporation company down to sleep. Rights of Indigenous People says they have to fund us to support things. So if they don't want this economic crash to come, they might want us to back Moors.
Yeah.
So we can set up, hey, all right, this land is crappy. Give us all the notes since our people still believe in it. And we'll get stuff done. We'll get this farmland set up.
Yeah.
So that when Walmart crashes and Stop and Shop crashes, we can still feed ourselves.
Yep.
That's decolonization. They know it's a fraud anyway. Let's just use it for what it is, accept it for what its value is, because people still think that this is real.
Yeah.
I mean, and we still
It's
need
like,
it to
okay,
get things done.
That's fine if you choose to trade with it.
Yeah.
But
But, I mean,
don't act
we
like it
have
has
to
real
use
value.
this. Yeah, exactly. We
Yeah.
have to use this under threat, force, and because this is not ours, it's their stuff. But this is the only thing in circulation right now. And most of our people don't want nothing but this because they think that this is real.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, if the Moor Science Temple of America was operating the way Drew Ali set it up, like, if there was no infiltration, we would have been had our own this with Drew Ali's face on it and other people's faces on it, our own people.
Yeah.
Been had. Drew Ali said, until you have a national treasurer, like your ancient forefathers, you ain't nothing. You're nothing until you have that. Because a beggar people can't reach his highest degree of spirituality, which is also what he said. And since someone else controls this, they control us. Therefore, we're begging for this. Someone else controls it, so we can't reach our highest degree of anything. It's simple what Drew Ali brought. It's so simple. It's this is a piece of paper. That's how simple it is. You know what I mean? This is a piece of paper. These two are equals. That's how easy. That's how simple Drew Ali just laid it all out. That's how simple it all is. All right. There is a fundamental difference between paying and discharging a debt. To pay a debt, you must pay with value or substance, i.e. gold, silver, barter, or a commodity. With FRNs, you can only discharge a debt. You cannot pay a debt with a debt currency system. You cannot service a debt with a currency that has no backing in value or substance. No contract in common law is valid unless it involves an exchange of good and valuable consideration. Unpayable debt transfers power and control to the sovereign power structure that has no interest in money, law, equity, or justice because they have so much wealth already. So again, since the Constitution says you can only pay a debt with gold and silver, when they pull people over and they give you a speeding ticket, they're suing you and they're asking you to pay in something that's not money. you can't pay in something that's not money.
Yeah.
That's the Clearfield doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Same doctrine we use when so-and-so was allegedly took money under false pretenses. There is no money.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Yep.
Same thing with speeding tickets. I can't pay you in something that's not real money, so stop asking me to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't.
Mm-hmm.
But then they want you to do the UCC financial statement. This is the financial statement. Saying that this isn't money is the financial statement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have money.
Yep.
This ain't money. What are you doing the UCC 1 for?
Yeah.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
What does rights of indigenous people say? Doesn't the rights of indigenous, since people want to authenticate the birth certificate for some endless amount of this,
Yeah.
doesn't the rights to pay off some bills, right?
Yeah.
They do the birth certificate thing to pay off their bills and their insurance and their...
We have the right to make our own.
Not only that, rights of indigenous people says we have the right to our lands and resources back. Heat, water, electricity, gas, those are natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
You use the rights of indigenous people to discharge that.
Mm-hmm.
Not going through their system, which they control,
Yeah.
and they're the ones putting the debt on you.
Yeah, because I know you're not bringing this water from Europe.
Right? Their lust is for power and control. Since the inception of central banking, they have controlled the fates of nations. The Federal Reserve System is based on the canon law and the principles of sovereignty protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In fact, the international bankers used a canon law trust as their model, adding stock and naming it a joint stock trust. The U.S. Congress has passed a law making it illegal for any legal person, corporation, to duplicate a joint stock trust in 1873. The Federal Reserve Act was legislated post facto, which is you can't execute a post facto law, to 1870. Although ex post facto laws are strictly forbidden by the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. The Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure separate and distinct from the federal United States government. I'll read that again. The Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure separate and distinct from the Federal Reserve System. Now, does that make more sense when I read page 11 when it says the Constitution granted Congress no power to create the Federal Reserve System?
Yeah.
So Europeans know this.
Mm-hmm.
They know it. They wrote a whole book on it.
And look at how big that book is.
And they openly discussed it
Mm-hmm.
on the floor of Congress.
Because none of us read this.
Yeah, because don't they say if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book?
Mm-hmm.
And then they put it right under our nose. Don't we transfer this? Isn't this under our nose? Don't we transfer this all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Don't it say Federal Reserve note right on it? The Federal Reserve is a maritime leader and or maritime insurance underwriter to the federal United States, operating exclusively under Admiralty/maritime law. The lender or underwriter bears the risk in the maritime law, compelling specific performance and paying the interest or premiums at the same. So whenever you get into like contracts with like certain whatever, like a dealership place, they'll always say that like you waive your right to go to court. You have to go to like I can't remember off the top of my head what type of court it's called, but it's like a third party. It's a commercial court.
Like a small claims.
No, it's there's a specific word for it. Not mediator. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's a commercial court.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't. Oh, it's like it's right here. Like the word is literally right here. I just can't get it out. Anyway. But like they always make it so like you go to that court system and not. Are you looking it up for me?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
All right,
right
yeah,
here.
look that up. I'll continue reading this. Boom, boom. Assets of the debtor can also be hypothecated, which means to pledge something as a security without taking possession of it, as surety by the lender or underwriter. The Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. There was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act for ever paying the principal. Prior to 1913, most Americans owed clear allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. So when Drew Ali came on the scene, was declaring that we're Moors, we had the right to our land and resources back, which we still do. He was teaching people about allodial title, and then to combat him, they put mortgages on our people. So prior to 1913, there were no mortgages. And then Circle 7 Quran says there are no happenings, all things according to law. So that would tell you, since Noble Drew Ali did what he did, to combat what he did, they did that. So there's a difference between allodial title and mortgages. Right? All property within the Federal Reserve, So prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees, stockholders, held legal title. So this also is part of when the so-called Indians get their so-called Indian title, which is the properties held in trust for the so-called Indians. It really belongs to the United States Corporation Company. Same thing. The U.S. citizens, tenants/franchisees were registered as a beneficiary of the trust via his or her birth certificate. In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects. The 14th Amendment, U.S. citizen to the Federal Reserve System. Now again, if you go to employee, right? Employees are what?
So what do you mean, a worker?
That's what most people think. What is an employee? Black's Law Dictionary. Fourth edition of Ancient and Modern Jurisprudence. Page 617 to page 618. Employee. Generally, let's skip that part. Employee. Servant is synonymous with employee. You see that? So you see how they control your labor? This is why people, when they say, oh, I want this day off, and their job can say no,
Yeah.
and then you can't do anything about it?
Sure, sir.
Because you agreed to be subject to them when you agreed to work with them when you signed that contract. And when they fire you for no reason, which they often do, it's because you waive your rights in that contract. Once you read that contract, it'll say they can sue you without just cause, without putting you on notice. They can just fire you. And then you have to give them a 2 weeks notice. But they can fire you whenever they want.
Yeah.
That's how they're controlling us. And we're agreeing to it because we agree to be employees, servants. Employee must be distinguished from independent contractor, officer, vice principal, agent, etc. So if so let's say like I'm a low voltage technician. I didn't notice like this knowledge before, but when I got out the military, I was working for Spencer Technologies. I was working for them as an employee instead of an independent contractor. I'm a technician. I could have worked for them as an independent contractor, not under them. You get what I'm saying? I'll be providing them a service. I'll be an agent. Or people should be thinking like that.
Yeah. And I know a European
That's the key to economic freedom.
like this.
Huh?
I know a European that works like this.
Yeah.
That he's contracted.
Because they know.
And in his meetings that this guy just does not show up to, and nothing happens. Yeah.
Like, talking about the Europeans, there was a guy who worked for the same place I worked for. I was talking to another guy. He said, yeah, this guy said he's not working any weekends. He's only working these days, and he's not going to be on call. And we were on call, like we were rotating every weekend, except for this guy. European guy.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so our people need to know all contracts are negotiable. If you're providing a service, I don't care if you're a freaking, registered person, cashier. You're providing a service. You don't have to be written down as an employee. You can be an independent contractor. This is stuff I didn't know. Now I do know.
Yeah.
And prove. Here, look. Law book. Right? All contracts are negotiable. So continuing. Unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution feudal roots, whereby all land is held by a sovereign, and the common people had no rights to hold a loyal title to property. Once again, we the people are the tenants and sharecroppers renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank. We the people have exchanged one master for another. That's where the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen comes in, where it was a transfer of property to the corporate federal government, who isn't really government. This has been going on for over 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people, without a voice protesting loud enough. Now it's easy to grasp why America is fundamentally bankrupt. Now, it's not America that's bankrupt, it's the United States Corporation Company. Now, interestingly enough, right, he said, this has been going on for 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people, without a voice protesting loud enough. Didn't Noble Drew Ali say, "Was there's unity, there's strength"? If you think your condition can be better, join the Moorish Science Temple of America. Didn't he say that? Why? Because we'll have a loud voice to combat European colonization of our land. Right, as an example, this whole library is being administered by nothing but Europeans. There are no Asiatics in there.
Yeah.
We should have our own library administered by Asiatics. But we're the only two Asiatics in here.
And that's exactly the reason why all these books that you have sitting in front of you, you won't find them here.
Yeah.
Because they're also controlling the literature.
Yep. And then, like, the William Hall Library that I go to. The William Hall family owns that. So since I have this, I can get a library and my family will own that library. And then all Asiatics can come, look, there's law books in here, look at them. Even though they can go to the law library downtown Providence. But still. That like, don't you gotta pay for a library card?
Yeah, you do.
So that library is making money. That family is making money.
Yeah. And if there was no money to be made, then it would just be
They still
owned
have
by
the assets.
people.
and they still have the assets.
Yep.
So everything is just additive.
Yeah. Even if the
So
whole
the books
building,
paid for themselves.
Even if the building was empty, the asset is the roof, a shelter.
Yeah. The asset is the building itself and the land that it's on.
Yeah. And then they're stealing our free resources.
So again, when I was talking about Moorish dominions, the administration of the government right now would be the Christian because the Europeans are in here. Once our people wake up, it will be none but Asiatics in here. Then it will be the Islamic rule. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple.
Yeah.
They have the jobs. Our people don't. It's that simple. Oh, give me a face of paper cut. Why don't more people own their properties? Why are 90% of Americans mortgaged to the hilt and have little or no assets after all debts and liabilities have been paid? Why does it feel like you are working harder and harder and getting less and less? Why are we reaping what has been sown? And the results of our harvest is a painful bankruptcy and a foreclosure on American property, precious liberties, and a way of life. Few of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. have dared to tell the truth. The federal United States is bankrupt. Our children will inherit this unpayable debt and the tyranny of enforcing, and the tyranny to enforce paying it. America has been completely bankrupt, not America, the United States Corporation Company. So again, the United States has been completely bankrupt in world leadership, financial credit, and its reputation for courage, vision, and human rights. This is an undeclared economic war, bankruptcy, and economic slavery of the most corrupt order. Wake up, America. Take back your country. Asiatics, wake up. Again, Europeans are administrating this library, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, it's our land, and they're making money off of that on our land, and we don't own one library. And don't say you own it, because you're paying the so-called corporate state some type of taxes, so you don't own it.
Yeah.
There's no black-owned businesses.
And the problem
Doesn't
is
exist.
the condition, the quality of life that we have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The quality of life is low because the Europeans benefit off us having a low quality of life. Because then they get to control our assets, laborers, etc. For their benefit. It's that simple. Drew Ali said it belongs to the people. It's that simple. The library belongs to the people. Our people should be administrating it because this is our land.
And they're working in greed.
Yeah.
They're not working so everyone can be happy and at peace and have shelter and food and enough to
They don't care
survive.
about
They're
that.
working with greed.
And also, I'm always going to say this. Nas said the problem is we started thinking like the colonists, and Noble Drew Ali started dropping that consciousness. Our people keep trying to live off of each other like the European has been living off of us. That is not how anything is going to work.
And let alone, it doesn't have to be done like that.
It doesn't.
If you look at most of these Europeans, they have multiple properties, Why do you have more than what you could possibly ever live in? What you could possibly ever eat off of, or farm, or why are you monopolizing everything?
I can't explain it.
No.
Again, when some people realize they don't have to pay mortgages, they don't have to pay these European rent, they don't got to apply for no Section 8, they don't have to apply for no food stamps. They have to, once they realize that they don't have to apply for nothing, and they realize I have Imperium, once we have a loud voice, these Europeans are done. They're already done.
Yeah, you can see the decline.
Yeah, they're already done, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like, right now it's just the dirt's on the floor, but once we wake up, we'll start sweeping that shit in the garbage. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. Because our people work these jobs. They work Walmart. They're the ones running everything. Like the grunt work, but the Europeans are administrating it. You know what I mean? It's like why be the janitor at Walmart when you can just own Walmart? But you can't own it if you're not in your proper person. If you're Negro, black, colored, you ain't owning shit. Indians are colored. So if you're claiming to be an Indian, you ain't owning nothing. If you're not in your proper person, you're not owning anything.
Yeah.
If you don't know that a mortgage isn't ownership, then you're definitely not owning anything. If you think IRS is government, then you're definitely not owning anything. If you think the state is the government, then you're definitely not owning anything.
Yeah.
If you think police are law enforcement, you're definitely not owning anything. If you think you're black, you're not owning anything. If you don't know your nationality extends to your business, you're not owning anything.
You gotta know this is your house, though.
Yes.
If you think it's their house, how could you ever own anything in somebody else's house?
And
How could you say this?
how
is
could
my
you
friend?
own this if they control this? There is no black dollar. They own this. Let's create a Moors dollar. Or Moors fiat note. And only trade it amongst each other and let them crash. They're already falling. They're already crashing.
Yeah.
It will just speed up once we start doing things.
Yeah.
Once we start taking care of ourselves, it will speed up for them. And our situation will be better. But it's not going to happen if we keep trying to be like them. We keep trying to fit into their system that they created for themselves. We're trying to show them that we're like them. We're not like them. At all. The problem is they started remember in the Moors Dominions book that I was reading, they clearly stated that they wanted to civilize people to be Christians. It wasn't just religion, it was their way of life.
Yeah.
They're living off of us. That's what they want. That's what they want our black leaders to do, to live off of us. These reverends, they got billion-dollar suits, billion-dollar airplanes. They're living off of us. Same things with these so-called black scholars claiming to be Pan-African and black power and all that bullcrap. I bet you they'll ask you for this. And they won't teach you nothing. They'll say a bunch of stuff, but they won't quote you to books and law.
Isn't that funny?
These so-called doctors, doctor means teacher. You're not teaching nobody nothing. You ain't a doctor.
And you have all these people with all these skills following you, these black leaders.
Black leaders.
But you won't take all those people with all those skills and say, let's come together and build a community center.
Yeah.
You want the money instead. Instead of saying, we got all these people, we can put up a foundation for a house. I got enough manpower. I got people in my following with knowledge on how to build structures.
Yep. So-called black people spend like $4 billion annually on so-called black churches. And they don't have a allodial title to that church. So guess who owns that church? Not them.
Yeah.
You're claiming that's your church, but your community doesn't own it. How's it yours?
Or you got a church leader saying, "Oh, the roof is always messed up." On the
It's
church."
always the roof.
And you can't call upon the people in your church. You want
To
the
fix
money.
it? Yeah.
You don't want them to fix the.
Yeah.
How many men do you need to? All right, let's climb up here. This guy knows how. This is what he does for a living.
Yep. And if they don't know, what does the rights of indigenous people say? We have the right to vocational training.
It's that simple. When's the last time any pastor or minister or anything? You know what?
They don't do that.
Instead of
Criminals.
sending a donation plate around, let's do like a canned good drive. Everybody go to Home Depot and buy one shingle.
Yeah.
One.
Fix the roof.
Everybody go and contribute, and I'm gonna put the receipt out there, or you guys can go buy the supply yourself.
Yeah.
How about that? And then, voila, the roof's fixed.
That simple, isn't that
Yeah.
simple? And that goes directly to the magistrate and the subjects. The king is going to employ people who are good at what they do. If you're good at this, all right, can you fix this roof for the church?
Yeah.
And the people are donating, so we'll take the money out of whatever the people donated and give it to you.
Yeah.
We're fixing the church.
Why can't we see the receipts?
And right.
Or if you don't want to let us see the receipts, why can't you say, okay, Home Depot, we're gonna open up this, or everybody show up to Home Depot on this day,
Yeah.
or like a baby shower registry.
Yeah.
We need 12 shingles.
Yeah.
Then whoever goes and buys one, I picked up 2, you picked up 3,
Yep.
until we're at our goal.
Yeah.
That's that.
And even what you're saying, we don't have to go through all of that. The so-called Reverend Black leader can say the rights of indigenous people says the state has to make sure we get economic support to do whatever we're doing. So since this isn't money, they print a lot of this. We can say, hey, Gina Raimondo as an example. These Moors need this to build whatever, to fix this roof. Oh, since this isn't real money and everything's backed off your estate, yeah, we can do that. We'll just go to Home Depot, whatever, here's whatever you need, set it up so we can get it for free.
Yeah.
That's rights of indigenous people.
We don't even need that. Give
Exactly.
us your credit.
Everything you just said, we can do that.
Yep.
But to get the economic pressure off our people's back, we use rights of indigenous people. Hey, Governor Gina Raimondo. Hey, Mayor George or Jorge E. Lorza. This is what we need. And then they give it. But we need a loud voice to do that.
Yeah.
Or they're just gonna be like, oh, we don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
It's
People gotta wake up.
yeah. And again, I'll go into this again. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. Do. Where's the one where you say employ his people and what they're good at? Right? The spirit of the merchant who extendeth his commerce, the skill of the farmer who enricheth his land, the ingenuity of the artist, the improvements of the scholar, all those he honoreth with his favor, he rewardeth with his bounty. He looketh among his people with discernment. He discovereth the abilities of men and employeth them according to their merits. So if you got someone who goes to your church who can fix a roof, hey, fellow churchgoer, can you fix this roof, please?
Yeah.
How simple is it?
Yeah.
How simpler do you want it?
That right there is a community.
But we don't have that.
You should be able to go to your pastor and say, I'm on hard times right now, I need help. Let me put you in contact with this brother. This person needs help, let's get together and help this person. The house is falling apart.
Yep. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. But they don't do that. Why? Because guess who Rev gets his license from? The corporate state. Guess who's not government? The corporate state.
That's called community service. We committed crimes? Okay, do some community service.
Yeah.
That's community service, not...
Go to jail and
Yeah.
The Europeans just make money over you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Which it isn't even money. It's just they make money by suppressing our people, that's the real money that they're getting.
Yeah. Make these license plates so
Yep.
your people can go give this fake money and energy to it. This they don't even need it in the first place.
And it's so simple. It really is. It really is. So this is to be read at every meeting. Caveat emptor. Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. You better make sure that don't cut out. Be careful.
No, that's good.
They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try and try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads like the sword old Democulus had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunning find a difficult path to travel upon the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Also, in his oral statements about the Prophet, he said, "I have detectives everywhere, so you don't know who's who, really." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Prophet Noble Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. That means there's Moorish hordes other places too. If he specifically say they're increasing here in America, he specifically said here in America. That means there are other Moors other places. All the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction. And having traveled over the road years before, the prophet knows where every member is along the road. And he said, if you were with me 2,000 years ago, you're with me today. If you were against me 2,000 years ago, you're against me today. Talk about when he was incarnated as other prophets. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traitors grin and culprits bask in the sun. They think they are on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for their last time, and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high catch scent, devour and leave crying out, caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks await. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. The truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was a joke and unreal. So some people saying he wasn't a prophet, this guy's just a fool. Now they're jealous because he's getting recognized.
Mm-hmm.
Proof that there's infiltration. So again, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of this situation. I have notified all of these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds, the ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement, will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. Let me say that again because some Moors don't get it. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. Stop putting your face out there like this is your movement. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Ali. Now, Like I said, when I first started learning about this stuff, I joined some Moors groups, and there's some Moors out there putting their face on pamphlets like they're somebody. You ain't nobody. To members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good works, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. So that means since we're in this thing, we're going to be blessed later on when we're not in this anymore. You know what I mean? So that means things are going to continue, so you might want to get right now. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. Again, this was 1913 to 1929. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded by their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors. Again, this was 1913 and 1929. Trying hours. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. So what does that tell you? The true foundation is the minds of the people. Again, these are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the one true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, and will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Cause and effect. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Drew Ali. And there's more literature that he has. More things that he has. So, want to add anything?
No.
No, we did. I mean, also people say, how can they help and stuff like that? Help by teaching your family, someone or anyone around you. Literally anyone around you. Because the louder voice that we have in whatever territory you're in, this territory, the better things will be.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
And not even so much as teach, just
talk about
put them on.
Yeah, but that's teaching.
Yeah. Because it's like, when you say teach, it's like, okay, I don't walk around teaching people I don't know enough.
No, yes you do. You teach them This
I
is
can
what the
teach
rights of indigenous
concept.
people says.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's still teaching.
And it's like just like I don't know a lot of things off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting concepts, but it doesn't take much for me. I don't have to know exactly. Pull up the rights of indigenous people.
Yeah,
Read it right from the paper.
Yep.
Let me show you something.
Yep.
That and that's like we brought up the gas station kid.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what's going on. So now he told me he talked to his friend.
Yeah, and that's how it works.
Yeah, spread the word.
It's like a hive mind.
Yeah.
Once you get it,
Mm-hmm.
once someone figures out, oh, I don't have to pay taxes, they're gonna talk about it.
Yep.
This is why, like, let me see. Except in the Rec City 4, they talk about how, like, they insert minority leaders to slow down movements,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't calculate, like, unforeseen, like, things. As an example, like, hold on, let me see. Like, they put minority leaders in situations to slow them down, but they can't see what Allah's going to do to counteract them.
Mm-hmm.
Allah's going to send a spirit down who has the fire within them
Mm-hmm.
to get knowledge to like
Yeah, somebody's
push
gonna
things
be
forward. Yeah.
We got to do something about this.
Yep.
This is crazy.
And they talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah.
Europeans are literally discussing this. All right.
But we're not.
Yeah.
Insane.
Damn.
Just like we were talking about.
But anyway, hold on. Before we go on to the next
Okay.
topic, to get this King Alfred plan, which is what they're talking about, you can get this on rvbaypublications.com.
Yeah.
And it like once people read it, it will literally say, like, we use minority leaders to slow down these movements,
Mhm.
but they can't anticipate other unforeseen things. And it's literally people coming in with the spirit of their ancestors, shutting these things down, putting these old dirty Moors in the back, and correcting things. They
Mhm.
can't tell who's gonna have that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's their biggest fear. So yeah, spread the word. They fear this stuff.
Yeah.
Fear it.
Yeah.
Fear it. It's beautiful. Like when they arrested me and they said that bond's bond's $10,000. I looked them in the eyes. No one's paying this. They fear it.
Mhm.
They fear it. It's incredible. Came in. Oh, since you've been cooperating, the bond dropped to 500. No one's paying that. You got my body as surety. I can't do nothing. But guess what? I don't fear you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they can't handle. They don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do to combat this colonization, show them no fear.
Mm-hmm.
Show them that you're dealing with knowledge, no fear.
Mm-hmm.
They can't deal with that.
Yeah. Because what do you do?
Yeah, because the whole Inquisition is based off fear.
Mm-hmm.
The whole democracy is based off fear.
Mm-hmm.
Show them, like when I was on the land and they tried to send policy enforcers at me, and I was digging the pond. The policy enforcer yelled at me, like screamed, and I didn't flinch. Like I went to boot camp. I can handle people yelling at me. I've been on the shooting range. I know what bullet sounds like going over my head.
Yeah.
You think yelling at me is oh
Yeah.
no fear? They can't handle it. They really can't.
Mm. You want to close out?
Yeah. Like Drew Ali said, study, study, study. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, this inspires you or something good, you know. But you know, declare your nationality. Study, study, study. That's all I got. Peace.